So here we go again, my Humber Super Snipe. And here I am, grabbing the thermostat housing and shaking the engine like I'm trying to wake it up, hoping the head will finally break loose. It's really seized on after 70 years. Now, I'm not showing you the 3 days I spent failing to lift that head off the block or trying to unscrew the studs. I did manage to get a few of them out, but the fear of snapping the rest stopped me from doing anything too heroic. Persistence, gun oil, a wooden mallet, and a few choice words that would make a sailor blush, the head finally came loose. As I mentioned before, neither I nor the entire internet seem to have any real info about how this engine is actually built. No service diagrams, no freeze plug maps, nothing. Given the age of the car, we assumed from the start that the engine could be fixed in a field using only a screwdriver, a hammer, and pure rage. And that's how we're approaching it. 1930s tech for a car that remained virtually unchanged from 1938 to 1952. Facelift not included. With the cylinder head now off and stashed safely, I sprayed everything with gun oil to protect the bores from rust after draining the spilled coolant. Next, I removed the heat shield from the filtration unit. I had installed fuel filters because I don't want to keep draining the carburetor bowl every 2 minutes. That little mesh in the fuel pump is more of a suggestion than a solution. So now I'm taking off the dual filter assembly from an old Volvo truck. That gives me room under the bonnet to remove the intake and exhaust manifolds. First step, disconnect all the pipes from the carb. Get everything out of the way. The intake and exhaust manifolds are bolted together into one glorious lump. In the middle of the intake, there's a hot spot for fuel evaporation, turning droplets into gas. Both manifolds are attached to the block via studs with T-bar clamps. Off come all the nuts, and out comes the manifold assembly with the carb still bolted on. Sounds easy, right? It is, but it has to be done carefully. Nothing breaks, nothing gets damaged. We're fixing, not wrecking. Now, with the manifolds removed, I attempt to piece together what's left of the original gasket, which pretty much crumbled to dust the moment the parts came off. I'll need to cut replacements because buying new ones would require a time machine, and I don't have enough old-timey money for that. So, I'll trace the fragments as a template. But first, off come the rocker covers, conveniently accessible now the manifolds are gone. Might as well check if there's any coolant leak under there. Could be a freeze plug that's cracked. There's an inspection hatch under the front wing for servicing the valve train. Off comes the wheel. We loosen the nuts, jack the car, pull the wheel, and remove the panel. And voila, full access to the valve gear. Inspection done. No obvious leak here either. So back to gasket duty. Somewhere else must be the culprit. Maybe I was right and it is the head gasket. Maybe, but not guaranteed. I poured more water into the radiator while everything was still disassembled, hoping to spot a leak with clear access. Nothing. But the fact remains, water did make it into the sump, a lot of it and fast. Something's definitely not right. Maybe I should just reassemble everything, fill it with water, and pressure test the whole thing again to eliminate every place I've poked around with my grubby fingers. Meanwhile, we fully drain the sump and leave the coolant inside the block. If something is leaking, it should eventually find its way down. Now I need to clean all the stud holes, get rid of corrosion. I run a drill through each hole using the correct bit. Then I degrease the head, especially the combustion chamber side, and scrub it with a kitchen scouring pad. Works great as a mild abrasive on carbon buildup, but doesn't scratch the metal. And full honesty here, I did lap the cylinder head mating surface against a flat plate to remove unevenness. Verified it with a machinist's straight edge. As we agreed, no machinery, no milling, just hand tools. We're doing this the 1930s way. Next step, jigsaw puzzle time. I lay out the fragments of the old intake exhaust gasket on sheets of high-temp gasket material and trace their outlines. Meanwhile, I'm cleaning the carb and manifolds externally with degreaser. Not inside the carb though, it's already clean and protected by filters. If it works, don't touch it. I cut out the new gaskets using a bench-mounted sheet metal guillotine, carefully, one step at a time. Also, reciting profanity-based incantations really helps precision. Once cut, I punched the bolt holes using a hand-operated arbor press. Sure, I could have used a punch and a hammer, but hey, I have a press, and it's hand-powered. We're still within the rules. Final touch-ups on the gasket edges, with a chisel and hammer, of course. Like I said, hammer repairs, just as the car's designers intended. Next, I cut the rocker cover gaskets from proper cork sheet, period correct materials. Gotta keep it authentic. Now, slowly and without rushing, because haste is only useful when catching fleas, I reinstall the rocker covers with the new cork gaskets. Then I line up the manifold gaskets, coat all the studs with copper anti-seize grease, so it all comes off properly next time. And gently reinstall the manifold assembly with carbs still attached. I loosely thread a couple of nuts to hold it in place, but leave it flexible enough to line up the exhaust flange. Exhaust gets tightened first, then the rest of the manifold. Now we return to the top of the block. I carefully scrape off the carbon buildup from the deck and pistons with a chisel. Gently, no heavy hand. And don't panic. Both block and pistons are cast iron. No harm done. I know that post-1945 models used aluminum pistons, but I'm pretty sure mine still has the original 1930s motor. The pistons are iron. And I also know that later models were notorious for oil consumption and leaks, all due to material mismatch between aluminum pistons and cast iron blocks. But these early ones? Dry and reliable. This engine has never burned oil. Next, the studs I removed are reinstalled. The real head gasket, generously donated by some local vintage machinery club guys, goes on. Gentlemen, if you're watching this, thank you. Though honestly, by the time the internet showed up, you were probably already retired. Still, much appreciated. I apply a thin layer of copper grease on the head mating surface, helps prevent the gasket from sticking, and smooths over any remaining imperfections. I always do this on old engines. Sometimes I use graphite paste instead. It works. And finally, the last touch for today. I gently lower the head back onto the block. No bolting down yet. Honestly, I'm a bit knackered. See you in the next episode.